Good Saturday morning, I'm Chloe Vincente. Good evening, I'm Chloe Vincente. Continuing coverage this morning, police still investigating a shooting at a Mobile nightclub. You can see her behind me. The building is left charred and crumbling, displacing an entire church community. If it wasn't for our camera lights, we'd be in the dark here at East Lake Park. Birmingham city officials say the electricity here hasn't been working since the copper wiring was stolen yet again. How are the drugs getting in?
The inmates are not bringing it in.
How would you make up the rest of the 14?
Well, we're going to be working with all of our partners on that.
In addition to the efforts from Democrats, there is at least one bipartisan push to deal with abortion access after the Supreme Court ruling. We're here at the chapel at the Waters where Lindy Blanchard has just arrived. Tell us, how are you feeling so far tonight?
Excited.
We've been around to several World Games venues today. Haven't seen too many people wearing masks. The spectators don't seem very concerned about COVID. When it comes to safety measures you can take, never drive around these stop arms here when they're down, even if a train's not coming. Neighbors and environmental groups fighting the potentially dangerous emissions coming from Bluestone Coke can breathe a sigh of relief tonight. This year, American Rivers named the Coosa the top 5 most endangered river in the nation, and that has to do with what's being dumped in this water. We're talking about Webster's Dictionary. They've got a brand new word.
I love when they come out with a list of words.
Yeah, you've probably heard of this one too.
This word is gaslighting.
All eyes are on the Crimson Tide as yesterday's game wrapped up homecoming in Tuscaloosa. Big news for fans of the Mexican pizza, which I found out during the break. Carly here is a fan.
I do love the Mexican pizza.
The one reason I really could never go to space is because I could not eat that disgusting food for that many months.
Right. And just the fear of space is for me a vacuum of you know, just nothingness.
That's a close second for me. The food was the number one issue.
Number one.
The Alabama Department of Corrections has refused to speak with us and other media organizations about the deaths out of Donaldson Correctional Facility, and quite frankly, many of the concerns in prisons across the state. At Donaldson, the Jefferson County coroner tells me the homicide rate has tripled, and deadly drugs like fentanyl are getting through prison walls.
I'm lucky to survive. By the grace of God, I'm lucky to be out here alive.
At 21 years old, Ronald McKeithen was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
It was a robbery where no one was hurt or injured.
McKeithen served 37 years behind bars until he got a second chance at freedom.
The DA took my petition to the judge and said, hey, you need to sign this. And once I got out, I just started went to work.
Alabama Appleseed, the same organization that helped get him out, hired McKeithen to work with inmates and advocate for better conditions inside prisons like Donaldson.
They're telling me that because of the lack of officers, there have been many nights when there's only 5 officers running the whole prison.
In one word, how would you describe Donaldson Correctional Facility?
Chaotic. Just strictly chaotic. That is not safe for anyone there, officer or inmate.
McKeithen says the facility is even worse now than when he was there. Homicides inside Donaldson so far this year have already tripled. According to the Jefferson County coroner, 6 people were murdered in 2022.
Predominantly, we dealt with natural deaths out of William Donaldson, and we're seeing more traumatic deaths, some of which are due to homicide, then that can be an indicator, obviously, of more violence.
Jefferson County Coroner Bill Yates says this year more inmates are dying from both homicides and overdoses. So far in 2022, 12 inmates in the county died from a drug overdose. 7 of those were at Donaldson.
So what we're seeing in the prison is fentanyl, and we're seeing methamphetamine. So those same types of mixtures, those same products that's on the street is getting through the walls of the prison.
Amidst the rise in overdose deaths and homicides inside state prisons, the Alabama Department of Corrections hasn't released any information to the public. We asked the department to answer our questions and were denied an interview. So we questioned the commissioner directly at an execution press conference in September. Commissioner, can you address the increase in violence and homicides at Donaldson Correctional Facility?
Not at this time, I won't.
Can we set up a time to do it another time?
Maybe so. certainly.
When we followed up with the Alabama Department of Corrections, a spokesperson still denied us that interview despite the commissioner's comment. We then brought the same questions to Attorney General Steve Marshall.
We have a violent population. The people that are serving time in prison right now need to be in facilities that we can accommodate and deal with them in a safe way, but we also need to make sure that we're keeping staff safe. But it's a tough population to deal with.
We're also seeing a rise in opioid overdose deaths inside prisons, which begs the question of how are the drugs getting inside prison walls?
No, I mean, I think it's a great question. When we see contraband being brought in, it raises questions that we need to be able to address, and I'm assuming is on the commissioner's radar.
McKeithen says that's been happening for years, and it's fueling the violence.
Inside a prison where you got a lot of drug use, you got a lot of anger, it's going to get crazy.
How are the drugs getting in?
The inmates are not bringing it in. I mean, like, how can the inmates bring drugs in? It's got to be the officers. It's got to be the staff.
Freedom! Freedom!
Across the state,
Repeal the Habitual Offender Act.
people are rallying for change, pointing the blame on Alabama Department of Corrections and state leaders.
We're tired of more people coming out in body bags than they are making parole.
I have stepped through more blood than I have stepped through grass during my time in prison.
Making their voices heard as the state remains silent. What would you say to Governor Ivey, Commissioner John Hamm, Attorney General Stephen Marshall about the prisons, the people who can change things?
I would tell them to find their heart. You got the power to stop all these deaths going in and out that gate.
In recent months, there's been a number of concerning images and videos from inside Alabama prisons circulating on social media sites like TikTok. They show inmates being beaten, severely sick, and poor conditions inside prisons. Due to legal issues, we're not able to show them to you, but you can see them yourself by searching Alabama prison inmate TikTok. Good evening. This is West Virginia Governor Jim Justice. Now, you might be wondering what he has to do with a coke plant here in Birmingham. Governor Justice and his family actually have a pretty big hand in the coal industry, not just in West Virginia, but here in Alabama, too. The governor's website here says they own Bluestone Resources, the company that operates Bluestone Coke. The governor's son, Jay Justice, was appointed the CEO. Right now, Bluestone Coke doesn't have a business license, and if you remember from our report in September, the plant is also under fire from the Jefferson County Department of Health for air regulation violations. Neighbors who live nearby believe when Bluestone Coke was operating, it was making them sick, and fear that will continue if the plant resumes production in the spring.
It just woke me up out of my sleep because I couldn't catch my breath due to the smell.
When Amanda Doctor moved to North Birmingham back in June, she says it didn't take long before she noticed something wasn't right with the air she's breathing.
My asthma is kicking in more. I have to be on my breathing machine every night now.
You believe since you've moved here, your health conditions have gotten worse?
Yes, it really has.
Doctor blames the emissions from Bluestone Coke, which is right next to her neighborhood. The plant uses coal to produce Foundry Coke. Eric Harrod, who lives right across the street from Bluestone, showed us how the soot collects on his cars. Soot, he believes, is from Bluestone Coke. He's even more worried about what it's doing to his lungs.
I don't know what I'm breathing, all that contamination over there. It's just a lot of stuff, man.
Greater Birmingham Alliance to Stop Pollution's executive director Michael Hansen says neighbors here in North Birmingham call them with alarming concerns, fearing for their lives.
Residents have been telling us for years about the health impacts, ranging from asthma attacks all the way to cancer and death.
According to court documents, the Jefferson County Department of Health says Bluestone was violating several regulations put in place to protect the air quality and people's health.
To see the health department finally come out with some strong actions, we're totally in support of that and thankful for it.
GASP has successfully intervened into the civil suit against Bluestone Coke, hoping to get justice for the residents. In addition to the health concerns, we confirmed Bluestone Coke doesn't have a business license. According to the Birmingham Tax and License Division and Jefferson County Revenue Department, the company does not have an active business license in the city or county. Over the last several months, CBS 42 has reached out dozens of times by phone and email, requesting an interview with Bluestone Coke officials and Bluestone Resources owner, West Virginia Governor Jim Justice. All of those requests were either denied or unanswered. We even joined this Zoom press conference for Governor Justice back in late October, and we were removed from the call before we had the chance to ask questions. So then we went to Alabama Governor Kay Ivey to see if she's aware of what another governor is doing in her state. West Virginia Governor Jim Justice is operating Bluestone Coke in Birmingham without Bluestone Coke in Birmingham without a business license and with health violations. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I certainly don't have any details on that. Best you check with the company and what you said in Birmingham.
Do you think we should be holding him accountable? He's the governor of West Virginia.
Well, everybody needs to be held accountable.
And accountability is exactly what neighbors in North Birmingham are asking for, saying their health is on the line.
Bluestone should take the time. Walk around and look what you are doing.
According to the Jefferson County Department of Health, the plant is currently in a cold idle, meaning they aren't producing any coke. In a press release, Bluestone officials said back in October they plan to continue operations in April 2022. They promised to make upgrades to their facility that will increase safety, but haven't shared the specifics on how that will happen.
With local coverage you can count on, this is the CBS 42 News at Noon.
Well, as we jump into this lunch hour on Cyber Monday, we're taking a live look at the skies right here in Birmingham from our BJCC camera. Dave, even though it's Cyber Monday and you can do that indoors, it's also a great day to catch some of those leftover Black Friday deals because it's beautiful out there. I could have this weather all the time.
You don't know anything about shopping either, do you?
Nothing. I didn't do any shopping this past weekend at all.
Of course not. She spent no money whatsoever.
We were talking about that earlier, way too much.
But yeah, the weather's great for going out shopping here.
Beautiful.
Or just doing something online, go sit outside and do some shopping too.
Kind of the calm before the storm though, right?
That's right. We have a weather aware issued for tomorrow.
And right now, officials are investigating a car accident that left one person injured. According to Birmingham Fire and Rescue, a person was hit by a vehicle on Springville Road. It happened around 7 o'clock last night. The victim's injuries are non-life threatening. This is an ongoing investigation. Developing news now, the 18-year-old Birmingham teen shot and killed on Thanksgiving has been identified. According to the Jefferson County Coroner's Office, Quindarius Germond Peoples was found with gunshot wounds on Orchid Road last Thursday night. He was taken to UAB Hospital where he was pronounced dead. The Birmingham Police Department is investigating this as a homicide. Anyone with information is encouraged to contact BPD at 205-254-1764. In developing news, Birmingham police are investigating a homicide on 29th Street Southwest. According to investigators, a man was shot in the driveway of a home just before 7 o'clock Saturday night. Police do not have anyone in custody at this time. They ask that anyone in the area who might have saw or heard something call Crime Stoppers at 205-254-7777. New at noon, the white gunman who killed 10 black shoppers and workers at a Buffalo, New York supermarket has pleaded guilty. The charges carry an automatic sentence of life in prison. The 19-year-old used a legally purchased semi-automatic rifle to gun down the victims at the Tops Friendly Market in May. He said in writings posted online that his goal was to terrify black people and preserve white power. Gendron had pleaded not guilty to separate federal hate crime charges that could carry the death penalty. AAA estimates that nearly 55 million Americans would hit the road, rails, or air for Thanksgiving, making this the third busiest since the company started keeping track back in 2000. On Saturday alone, the TSA screened more than 2.2 million people. AAA expects when the final numbers are tallied, this year's Thanksgiving travel will have been on par with pre-pandemic levels, with more than 54 million Americans trekking more than 50 miles away from home. AAA also expects travel to continue this week, with more Americans now working remotely.
The price of traveling and going through everything is definitely worth the family time.
AAA says it expects not only a busy winter holiday season, but also an explosion next year in what it's calling revenge travel. Americans making up for the lost time on the road by spending more money on vacation and traveling further from home. While the prices at the pump fall, a Christmas tree will likely cost you a little more this year. Fuel, fertilizer, and labor are some reasons the prices have increased. Last season, some local tree sellers were dealing with a Christmas tree shortage, but the Mountain Scout Christmas tree lot in Investigative says this year has been the exact opposite. They have more than enough trees to meet the demand, and with more trees to sell, they've seen an uptick in business this year.
I had to pay a little bit more because of the gas prices have been going up, so the freight to get them down here was a little bit more. But other than that, yeah, we paid the same. The prices are pretty similar to last year.
Smith says the weekends are their busiest and they plan to be open until December 15th. And you can enjoy some Christmas cheer without having to spend any money. Birmingham's Christmas tree is officially lit. Families from all over Birmingham gathered to celebrate the start of the holiday season at the tree lighting block party outside of City Hall last night. Several residents say the event brought neighbors together as one. City officials say they hope this event sends a positive ripple effect throughout the community during the holiday season. And Hoover is hosting its annual Christmas tree lighting on Tuesday. It'll be held at Hoover City Hall on Municipal Lane at 5 p.m. There will be live music from local choirs, bands, coffee and hot chocolate, gifts, and even a visit from Santa. Families can take pictures with him at the Hoover Library. Flu season is underway as many try to prevent catching the rapid spreading virus. Coming up on CBS 42 News at noon, promising results of an experimental vaccine to protect against a possible flu pandemic. We'll tell you about that next. But first, free eye exams and glasses for those in need. We'll tell you about the UAB Gift of Sight event. You're watching the CBS 42 News at noon.